We use money every single day, but have you ever stopped to really think about what it is? It's more than just paper in your wallet or numbers on a screen. It's actually a set of rules, really powerful rules that organize our entire world, that decide who has power, and that literally shape our future. So the big question is, who writes these rules? That's exactly what we're going to dig into. I mean, think about it for a second. It's kind of a weird question, but it's fundamental. Why would a farmer trade a whole crate of real, actual apples for a piece of paper? The answer to that question is this incredible story, a story about trust, about power, and about human creativity. And it's a story we really need to understand if we want any say in what happens next. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start at the very beginning with how money was invented. Then we'll leap forward to a single moment in time that changed everything. From there, we'll look at the problems that came out of that change, explore some really interesting alternative ideas, and finally ask what a fairer future might actually look like. All right, let's start at square one. Before there were banks, before there were even coins, how did people trade? Let's look at that journey from just swapping stuff to using precious metals. So imagine for a second you're a fisherman and you need a new pair of shoes. In a barter system, you can't just find a shoemaker. You have to find a shoemaker who wants fish right now. It's called the double coincidence of wants, and frankly, it's a huge pain. So the first big idea was commodity money, using things everyone agreed were valuable, like salt or cattle. But the real game changer happened in ancient Lydia, what's now Turkey, around the 7th century BC. They started making the first standardized coins. All of a sudden, value was easy to carry, easy to divide, and everyone accepted it. Commerce just exploded. And this is where it gets really cool. It wasn't just about gold and silver. This slide shows just how creative people have been. For hundreds of years, these tiny cowrie shells were a major currency across Africa and Asia. Why? Well, they were tough, easy to carry, and hard to fake. Or get this, in Tibet, you could literally break off a chunk of your money, a brick of tea, to buy something smaller. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Money is just a story. It's a social agreement. Its form can be anything, as long as we all agree to believe in it. And this history is literally baked into the words we use every day. Roman soldiers got part of their pay as an allowance to buy salt. It was that important for preserving food. That allowance was called a salarium. So yeah, the next time you get your salary, you can remember that the word itself connects you all the way back to an ancient Roman soldier's rations. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, let's fast forward a few thousand years to a pivotal moment in our own lifetimes, when the rules of money were completely turned on their head. This is the story of how our money basically lost its anchor and started floating on a sea of pure trust. For centuries, paper money wasn't really the money. It was just a claim check. You see, it all started when merchants would store their heavy gold with a goldsmith, who would give them a paper receipt. Pretty soon, people realized it was way easier and safer to just trade the receipts. But that piece of paper was always a promise, a hard guarantee that you could walk in anytime and swap it for real physical gold. But then, on August 15th, 1971, everything changed. President Nixon was facing huge bills from the Vietnam War, and he was worried other countries are about to cash in their dollars and drain America's gold reserves. So he made a shocking announcement. In what's now called the Nixon shock, he just cut the cord. He ended the dollar's link to gold. And in that one moment, the US dollar, and pretty soon the whole world's financial system, became fiat money. Fiat is Latin for let it be done. The money has value now simply because the government says so. This slide really lays out the massive shift. Before, the guarantee was physical. Your money represented something tangible and real. Now, under a fiat system, the guarantee is just trust. It's our collective faith in the government that issues it. We went from a system based on scarcity to a system based on confidence. Now, this gave governments a ton of new flexibility, but as we're about to see, it also opened up a whole new can of worms. So, what happens when the power to create money is no longer tied to something physical, like a pile of gold in a vault? This is where we get into the real-world consequences of the fiat system for our wallets and for the balance of power in our society. The biggest side effect of a fiat system is the potential to create unlimited amounts of money. When governments just print more to pay their bills, it floods the system. And that devalues every single dollar already out there. That's inflation. It's called a silent theft because no one's reaching into your bank account. Instead, the money that's already in there just buys less. And this hurts people on fixed incomes or anyone with cash savings the most. And this chart, well, it shows you exactly what that looks like in the real world. The tall bar on the left, that's what a dollar could buy you back in 1971, right when the US went off gold. The tiny bar on the right, that's what's left of that dollar's power today. That's not an accident, that's a direct feature of the rules we live by. But it's not just about the power to print money. Sometimes economic power gets so huge, so concentrated, that it can literally start to bend the political rules itself. The classic case is John D. Rockefeller and his Standard Oil empire. By the late 1800s, he controlled an insane 90% of all oil in America. And with that kind of economic muscle, he could lean on politicians to write the laws in his favor, protecting his monopoly. And you know what's crazy? This table shows that the playbook for building a monopoly is timeless. The tactics just get a digital upgrade. Rockefeller controlled the key asset of his time, oil. Today's tech giants control the new key asset, our data. He used dirty tricks to crush rivals. Today's giants just buy them before they get too big. And influencing policy has gone from backroom deals to super sophisticated lobbying. But the end goal is exactly the same. Write the rules to protect your power. Okay, so we've seen how the current rules can lead to some serious problems, like inflation and these massive concentrations of power. So that begs the question, right? Are there better rules out there? Let's take a look at an alternative model that tries to use the power of the market, but also make sure its benefits are shared a lot more widely. So on one end of the spectrum, you have this idea of pure hands-off capitalism, where you just let the market do its thing. But as we've seen, that can lead to monopolies and other issues. But on the other hand, you have something you could call a socially coordinated market economy, which you see a lot in the Nordic countries. This model doesn't get rid of the market, it just uses the state to steer it, to try and prevent those downsides and aim for better outcomes for everybody. So how does that actually work? Well, it kind of rests on three big pillars. First is flexi-charity. It gives businesses the flexibility they need while giving workers the security of a strong safety net. Second, you have centralized bargaining. Unions and employers sit down together and figure out wages for entire industries. This makes sure profits get shared more fairly from the start. And third, universalism. Basically, everyone pays in through taxes, and everyone gets access to top-notch public services. It's a whole system built to create trust. Now, to see if this stuff actually works, we can use a handy little tool called the Gini coefficient. It's super simple. It's a scale from 0 to 1. A score of 0 means perfect equality. Everyone makes the same amount of money. A score of 1 means perfect inequality. One person has everything. It's the standard way of measuring how wealth is spread out. And this chart, well, this is pretty stunning. The first bar shows the level of inequality the market produces all by itself. It's pretty high, not so different from other places. But then look at that second bar. That's what happens after the system of taxes and social programs kicks in. The drop is just dramatic. This is a crystal clear picture of a society actively choosing to write rules that create a more equal outcome. All right, let's head into our final section and connect all these ideas to some of the biggest global challenges we're facing today. How could a different set of rules for our economy help us build a more stable, more fair future for everyone on the planet? What's really fascinating is when you lay this economic model over the UN's own Sustainable Development Goals, the alignment is almost perfect. The model's focus on safety nets, good jobs, and less inequality hits goals 1, 8, and 10 right on the head. And to make it all work globally, especially on things like making sure big corporations pay their fair share of taxes, you need the exact kind of international teamwork that Goal 17 is all about. It's like a pre-made playbook for hitting some of our biggest targets. And as we look to the future, we have new tools to work with. Things like a universal basic income, or UBI, could create a solid economic floor for everyone, especially as automation changes the job market. A shorter work week could be a way to share the available work more broadly. I mean, these ideas might have sounded like science fiction a few decades ago, but today they're being talked about as real, practical solutions to tomorrow's challenges. So we've gone on quite a journey, from ancient barter all the way to our global digital economy. And the one thing that's clear is that the rules of money are not like the laws of physics. They're choices made by people. They were written in the past by kings, by bankers, by politicians. And the results of those rules, both the amazing progress and the massive inequalities, are all around us today. So that leaves us with one final powerful question. Who's going to write the rules for the future? And what part are you going to play in that conversation?